Yo, what up everyone? In this video, I'm going to talk about the most underrated legend in Season 8, Fuse. Now, some of you may be thinking, yeah, he's a pretty good legend. What else can I learn from this video? Well, I'm going to show you how to play him correctly. And for the people who don't understand why he's so underrated, stick around and I'll show you how he is the most underrated legend. Now, let's do a quick rundown of his abilities. His passive, he can stack 2 grenades per 1 backpack slot, and he uses his arm to launch those grenades. Now, his tactical is called the Knuckle Cluster. It shoots a grenade cluster that deals a good amount of damage if it's placed right. And his ultimate is something called the Mother Load. It shoots a ring of fire around your opponents, and that fire deals damage to them. Now, I did a Fuse guide at the start of the season, so if anybody wants to get a more in-depth knowledge of how to use Fuse correctly, then check out that guide. I will link it in the info card right now. Now, I think his ultimate is the weakest part about him. Where Fuse is really good is his passive and his tactical. Also, Fuse is an offensive legend with a normal sized hitbox and doesn't have to deal with the battle of low profile or fortified that Apex can't seem to get right on most of the legends. Now, when I made a Fuse guide at the start of the season, I had mentioned I thought Fuse would be mediocre. He'd be right in the middle. But due to the recent changes in the Chaos Theory Collection event, they did nerf a good amount of legends. And sometimes when they nerf legends, they inadvertently make other legends stronger. And that's why I'm making this video. The most recent update to a few of the legends have definitely prompted it. They nerfed Caustic to the ground. Gibby also got a significant nerf as well. Although Gibby's abilities will still be used in competitive and ranked, if you take a look at most of the legends right now, in my opinion, a lot of them aren't super strong. Now, I'm not saying Fuse will be used in high level ranked, and he's not going to be used in competitive most likely, but that doesn't mean he's not very viable. Fuse reminds me a lot of Bangalore in the essence where they're pretty balanced. They don't have to deal with a lot of the constant nerfs and buffs from season to season. And Daniel Klein, the lead character developer, did say on Reddit earlier this season that they're really happy with how Fuse turned out. There are no projected nerfs or buffs coming to him as well. Now, up until midway through season 3, you were able to stack 2 grenades per 1 backpack slot, and it was proven to be OP. I remember specifically in competitive Apex, teams would stack a ton of throwables and absolutely demolish teams late game with them. Most of the time, they barely had to shoot their guns if they placed the grenades correctly. Grenades have always been OP in Apex, especially in the right hands, so Fuse's passive naturally is going to be OP. The only downfall is the way he has to launch the nades with his arm. Sometimes it will be beneficial, whereas other times it can hinder your accuracy. If someone is on high ground, for example, it's hard to lob the nade in the air to hit them. Fuse can't really throw vertical grenades like you can with other legends, but if someone is in front of you, and even if there's a lot of distance in between your enemy and you, it will prove to be very strong. Alright, so let's get talking about some tips and tricks for Fuse. Number 1, save backpack space for grenades. I usually try to save 2 to 3 slots depending on what bag I have and what weapons I'm running. Take advantage of being able to stack these grenades. Number 2, his tactical can stick enemies like an arc star, and if you do that, they can't really avoid the cluster damage, which it can reach up to 50 damage. I don't believe there's any other tactical in the game that can do that much damage. The Knuckle Cluster can also break doors and explode through doors. The only nade that can do something like this is a thermite. They will also get no grenade indicator from the cluster if you hit them through the door. Once again, this is OP. If somebody arc stars your door, you can see that there is an arc star on the door and you will get an indicator. But for the Knuckle Cluster, it's not like that. And the sound is pretty loud, so that can also mess up your enemies as well. Number 3, save throwables for when and if you launch your ultimate around your opponents. If they're surrounded by the ring of fire and then they have to deal with the constant explosives around them as well, they really don't have much of an outplay ability. It can be a very overpowered combo. Now, if anyone here is a return viewer, you guys know I've played a ton of Caustic, and since Caustic is pretty weak right now, I've been taking a liking to Fuse. His abilities are a nuisance, and very similar to Caustic, where you have damage dealing abilities that can really mess your opponents up. Now, obviously, they're still very different. Caustic's not affected by his abilities, where Fuse is. You know, you can still take damage from your ultimate, your tactical, and your passives, but he's still very similar. And if there's a lot of Fuses running around in Apex, well, let me just tell you, it's gonna not be the best time. So I'm kind of hesitant even telling you guys about how overpowered I think he is. But that's up for you guys to decide. If you disagree with me, feel free to let me know in the comments about why you don't think Fuse is that good and why I'm wrong. But I do have thousands of hours in Apex, and looking at the current state of the legends, I do think Fuse is pretty overpowered for what he is. Now, Fuse has 2 significant downfalls or flaws, however you want to phrase them. One is the fact that he has to launch the grenades with his arm. Now, as I talked about this earlier on in the video, it's a gift and a curse. Yes, I get to stack 2 grenades, but I have to launch them with my arm and I'm not able to throw them. There are times where throwing the grenades would be much more effective than launching them with his arm. So it is a gift and a curse. The second one is the mechanics of his ultimate, the Motherload. There are times when I find it's either trying to shoot it too close or too far away. I'm trying to hit somebody in the middle ground and it's very awkward to launch it in some areas. It's tough to kind of articulate, but you guys will notice it if you play him a good amount. You could be indoors trying to launch it further in, but it's not going to let you. You could be outdoors and the ring isn't picking up with where you're looking at. So I wish the mechanics of the Ring of Fire were a bit easier to use, but you know, it is what it is, I guess. So those are the 2 biggest downfalls with Fuse in my opinion. Now, Fuse doesn't offer a ton for his team in terms of some of the other legends, but he is an assault legend. So if you know how to properly use his abilities, you can definitely assist your teammates that way. The one thing I found out pretty early on with playing Fuse recently was that his Ring of Fire is actually really good to prevent Revenant pushes, especially if you can just cut off the way that the Revenant team has to come to you. If we're talking about an Octane jump pad Revenant, well, it's not as easy to do. There really isn't much of an outplay for that. But if you can hear a Revenant totem or you know that somebody's coming in shadow form, I've launched that Motherload plenty of times and they have to run through that, basically leaving them 0 HP, get sent back to the totem immediately. So that is another key factor for Fuse, which with Revenant kind of being in the meta can be very useful. Now, Caustic used to be able to similarly do something where if you were indoors, you had a Caustic, you knew you were getting Revenant pushed. Caustic was a pretty decent counter to the Revenant. But like I said in the video, Caustic has been pretty weak recently, so I've been playing a lot more Fuse. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I still have a few more clips left in the video, so if you want to see some good gameplay, please watch till the end and enjoy. And like I said, let me know what you think about Fuse and this video down in the comments. If anyone's new, I hope you will consider subscribing and please slap a like on the video as well. All right, guys, I'll catch you on the next upload. Peace.